kind of starting to do some more. Well, first of all, I'm Danielle Casey. Great to meet those of you who I haven't met in person. I've met so many of you, but I'm the Executive Vice President here at the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. We've also got some other team members and staff here. So we're really excited today to introduce this tool. We're going to be doing more and more of these programs with our champions and investors and people that are engaged in Greater Sacramento so that you can continue to be a voice for us out in the community. And we also want to share really cool tools and resources with you so we can all promote the region in a really fantastic and amazing way. So again, this is a casual interface here today. So we're going to, there's a few more sandwiches, so please don't be shy. Please eat the cookies. I don't want to take them back to the office. We're doing like a health thing. So anyway, well, great. So this Lunch and Learn program is really, it's all about our new GreaterSacramentoSites.com tool that we have launched. Right now it is live online. We're still somewhat in beta mode as we're continuing to upload data, and our vendors who have actually created these tools are going to explain that to you and introduce it to you. So please feel free as we go through the presentations today to interrupt. What they're going to do is really take you through an introduction of who they are, what the tools are, kind of a high-level overview, and then we'll dive into some live demos of the tool and really play around with the data interfaces. Sound good? All right. So to make this possible, what we have are really two companies packaged in one that are helping us, and this is Jeff is with GIS Planning, and then Mike is with RealMassive. So they are partners of ours, and you'll see how all this works together. So I'm going to introduce both of them so you get a sense of their backgrounds, and then they're gonna take it away, and I'm going to do very little. Cool. All right. So Jeff Sundinson of GIS Planning, he's actually responsible for project management and working directly with all the customers that they have on a tremendous amount of aspects of their service. So his experience is 14 plus years in GIS systems, 10 with GIS planning. Before then, he actually built all of the GIS from the ground up for the city of Hayward. So hopefully that's still going strong. Yeah. He has a BA in geography from Cal State San Diego and a master's from Cal State University East Bay. Mike is an alum of UT in Austin, where he got his degree in electrical engineering. And since graduating, he's had many leadership positions in a lot of high-tech industry companies. So he's got more than 25 years of experience, and he's the vice president of sales for RealMassive, which is based in Austin, Texas. So I'm going to hand it over to them, but one thing I wanted to do to kind of give them a sense of who the folks in the room are today. Who is in commercial real estate? Anybody? A couple of folks? Excellent. Who knows somebody in commercial real estate in the community? Very good. And everybody else, are you ambassadors of Greater Sacramento, active with our organization? Wonderful. So all of you have a very important role to play in helping us spread the word on all of this, as well as getting involved in utilizing this tool. So with that, I'm going to let them do all the work and talk through it. And thank you again all for being here.
All right. Oh, there's my bio there. So just to reiterate what Danielle said here is we've put together our service now for the Greater Sacramento region for all the counties in the area. I'm with GIS Planning. We've been in this space of sites and buildings, economic development, as well as GIS for the last 20 years. Personally, I've been with them about 10 years. We are based out of the Bay Area, so we are somewhat local. I'm actually very local. I live in Folsom, so it's nice to have a project that actually covers where I live in here. I don't know. I know some of you are familiar with who we are. We have some clients that have been clients in the past year, like Wendy from Woodland. West Sacramento used to be a client of ours. So we have been in the region in the past. Thank you.
There we go.
Oh, that's where you want me to start. So this is a good overview to show that we really did start in California. We kind of built out from there, but we've not only gone throughout the United States, but we're starting to have a little bit of a presence even in Canada and over in Europe. One little fact is our company is now technically owned by the Financial Times, which is something that's great for us. We're able to leverage a lot of different resources that we didn't have before. And that's one of the reasons why you're starting to see some of those European clients over there. And just on this map here, just to point out, the purplish pink icons, those show statewide organizations that we work with. So we do work with, we have about 370 different clients, and as it says here, 5 countries that we have some type of presence in. the typical clients that we serve are either chambers, EDOs, and they can be anywhere from the single city, even have small districts that will work with us, all the way up to multi-state regional organizations. Our tools are intended to be a free use to the end user. So the idea here is brokers, adding properties, the site selectors coming in. The tool itself is really intended to empower those users to make these smart site selection decisions. And we've had a number of success stories in the past, and I always encourage people to go to our website and you can see, we have examples of real life decisions being made using our data. So we've kind of created this space, and over time we tend to lead in those different areas. So we do online GIS selection, site selection. We were the first to do like mobile optimization for that. We do heat mapping of all our data sources, so we have things like demographics, labor force, consumer expenditures, wage data, existing business data, all that can be mapped out as thematic maps for actual locations. Again, the tools are intended to be highly visible, so you can share on social media, you can export them, you can send them to a PDF. We're not one of those tools where you have to have a license to even access that data. We've had a lot of, I mentioned this earlier, we've had a lot of different successes, clients coming back to us. The state of Oregon was able to land a deal with Lowe's that generated $100 million. The state of Oregon recruited Denise Kitchen, Oklahoma City, Dell Computers, the list goes on. The idea here is not only are you providing this data, but you're showing that you are an organization in an area that values business coming in and you're providing tools and working for them. So at GIS Planning, we have a product suite. So the one that if we get into it today, that we're really going to look at is the Greater Sacramento Sites and Buildings application. That's kind of our core product. That's where you have your commercial buildings, vacant land, and then that's the main platform that incorporates all that data. Now, anytime you bring that much data together and that much functionality, it becomes more of a power tool. And so what we did is we have another set of tools which we call our intelligence components, which the Greater Sacramento can use in other areas. And there, you can pull out portions of that data and expose it. So you're not sending someone to a site selection database if they're just looking for some demographic information or from consumer expenditures. Maybe you're just an existing business that wants to see that information and you're not looking for a new location or to move into the area. We also have an online proposal generator. What Greater Sacramento is going to be doing is they can, when they hear about projects or prospects that want to come into the area, they can put these into the system. They can build that in there, then the community partners can then propose their properties. And then this is something that they can put together and they can send out to that, to whoever's looking to relocate. I mean, looking at like a big project, think of like Amazon's headquarters too. They could, not that you would put it together for that specific project, but if you did have something relevant and something to offer, you can put this together, package it, send it out to them. And it's dynamic in that you're sending an online proposal where they can go back in and they can do all this analysis and see, okay, is this really the right location for us? We also have in there analytics and lead generation tools. So we have our Google Analytics, and we have our own site analytics, and you can, it lets them know what properties are important, which communities are being researched the most. Another tool we have is the lead generation tool, which is really nice. And what that tool does is we partnered with a company named Lead Forensics. What they do is they have a master address list of all public IP addresses as well as businesses. And so when users come to the Greater Sacramento site, if I come in and I'm from Dell Computers and I do a search for 40,000 square feet of warehouse space, they will be notified of that even without them having to create a user account or anything. Greater Sacramento will get that in their report saying, Dell Computers was looking for this amount of space, this is the property they found, this was another property they found, and then this is, the types of reports that they generated. So this is really good information for them to have to then go and approach those users. The final portion that we have in here is ZoomProspector.com, which is our nationwide portal. So one of the things about adding in the property data is you're not just putting it in the Greater Sacramento area website. It is also going up to our nationwide site. so it does have national visibility. And our online site, feel free to visit at any time at ZoomProspector.com. The idea with that site is to capture that site selection traffic and help make those properties and tools that you're putting in there available to those site selectors that might be looking at another area. And one of the things we do is we have data available for the entire nation in there at a more of a higher level. They'll come in, we're able to capture that audience because they were just going to look for some data, and then we can then push them to sites like Greater Sacramento, because we also list those sites and buildings there. And then that then further links over to the Greater Sacramento site. This kind of goes back to what I was talking about, those intelligence components, those data widgets. These are just like really quick screenshots of what those look like. And again, instead of being that full-featured sites and buildings application, it's just really targeted information. So if you wanted to show something like education, degrees awarded, or business clusters, these are all tools that can be embedded throughout the site. Also included in the main tool, as well as a side tool, each community has an infographic available to them. The infographics, you can find them in the Greater Sacramento site. They are dynamic. They're updated anytime we do our data updates, and we update anywhere from twice a year to 4 times a year based on the data that you're looking at. And these really help paint just a visual picture of the community. This isn't even the full thing. This is just a couple pieces of that taken out. And it covers people, education, business, taxation, transportation, and educational attainment. So it's just a nice feature to pull out there. This is just a brief look at those analytics that I mentioned there. Danielle and her team can go in there. This lets them know, is the tool functioning for them? Are people using it? It also does things in here, like if you were to look at like property searches by size, it gives them an insight into what's important to the site selectors coming to the tool. Are they looking for large spaces, small spaces, retail versus warehouse? Sorry, this is I was talking about the wheel there. I should have skipped over these slides. This is also an example of the lead gen ID tool. So here you can see these are the businesses coming into this client's site. And then over here on the right-hand side, if you were to drill down into any one of these, you can see specifically what they were looking for in there. So again, pulling all that information out. So we're not necessarily do questions right now. We're going to pass it over to Mike. We're going to come back up, and then we're going to do some live demos. So I'll switch it over to you, Mike.
Yep. Good. All right. Howdy, everyone. I'm from Texas, so I can say that. All right. Let's get rid of the picture. Let's go. All right. RealMassive. Who are we? We take a notoriously difficult job of trying to collect commercial real estate information in your community and maintain it. And we try to do that on your behalf in order to try to keep as much information up to date as possible. And this is a very difficult task. I'll go through how we actually go through this process because as I'm sure many people know, commercial real estate is one of these places where inventory is coming on and off the market all the time, right? And as you're off trying to attract businesses to your communities, we need to figure out ways of trying to help make your jobs easier. Right? And we want to do that by trying to ensure that we have the most robust set of inventory in your community, and hopefully you don't have to be managing that yourself. Right? Now we're not going to be perfect, but we're going to strive to be as close to perfect as possible. And then we in turn take all this aggregated information and we want to make sure that we get it delivered over to the GIS planning tool. So when you go to the Greater Sacramento site, you'll actually see all that information, which is going to make ultimately your jobs easier as you're going to go off through this proposal process to try to recruit businesses to relocate to the community. That's the high-level summary. So let me get into some of the details. High level, if you go to realmassive.com, what you're going to see is we're a commercial real estate marketplace. Right? So to the brokers in the room, we look like a place where folks can actually find listings, find spaces. So if you're looking for office space, you're looking for commercial, you're looking for land, for lease, for sale, for sublease, we do all this work. We collect it, we post it, we visualize it and make sure that it becomes visible, and we promote that across the country. Right? And importantly, we do that for free to the broker. Right? We don't charge the broker for any of this stuff. So for those brokers in the room that you're familiar with the CoStar model, there's a lot of, they're trying to monetize you. You pay them to list, search, how many seats you have, marketing, LoopNet, all sorts of other things you got to pay them a lot of money for. We don't charge you a dime, right? Our job is, in fact, not only do we not charge you a dime, we actually will take your listings, we'll actually spend our own marketing dollars to go off and market and promote those listings with the intent of driving traffic to you and ultimately driving leads directly back to the broker. So it's a very powerful value proposition back to the broker, because ultimately what we're trying to do is to service our clients like Danielle and the Sacramento community, because we want to deliver a robust set of information and data. So it's in our best interest to try to make a collaborative relationship with the broker in order to really create a very robust data set, which is a win-win for all parties involved, and that really is our job. So, a couple of points about our data. We try to collect a very rich set of data. We collect nearly 80 fields of data, or we attempt to collect nearly 80 fields of data. So, we really are trying to not only offer what I call breadth of listings, which is the coverage in your community, but we also want to have depth and quality to those listings. Right? We want to make sure we have pictures. We want to make sure we have brochures, contact information for the brokers, information about the amenities, all this other stuff. We're trying to ensure that we have as much information as we possibly can about that data set. Secondly, we're trying to make this completely turnkey and transparent to you. Right? So as a community leader, we want to make sure you don't spend time trying to seek out the right property for the right business. Right? We want to make sure that we try to have that inventory available for you to search, to try to save you time ultimately, because there's a lot of time spent trying to not only just manage inventory, but also trying to figure out, how to actually play matchmaker and figure out, how can you attract businesses to relocate. And third, we make this completely transparent to you by making it seamless by working with the GIS planning team. So we take all our information that we're collecting and aggregating, and then we seamlessly transfer that over to Jeff and company, and they make it part of their integrated tool. You now have this very powerful combination. You have all this property information that is dynamically being kept up to date and is current, and you have all these additional overlays of the demographics of the workforce and the income statistics, and a lot of other information that you can now view with confidence that you have a robust set of information that is hopefully highly accurate and highly useful as you go off and try to recruit businesses. So a question that we get asked, how do we actually do this? How do we actually source all our data? And the short answer is there's no one-size-fits-all answer, because when you're talking about commercial real estate, you're talking about a very large, diverse industry that has both very, very large brokers, brokerages, as well as a lot of small mom-and-pop brokerages. There's a very long scale to the commercial real estate market. And you have properties that aren't even listed with anybody, right? They're just owned by individuals, or even city-owned, or city-managed. So how we do this is there's three different primary methods that we utilize to collect data. First is we actually have direct data feeds coming in nightly from large brokerages, folks like Berkshire Hathaway and Reology and others. These folks every night give us their data feeds that we populate into our database. And the incentive, of course, for them is they're going to get visibility and promotion on those listings, right? As we go off and try to drive leads to them, they find a lot of value in working with us and providing those listings. So it actually gives us a nice foundation to start with. Now, it's great in that it gives us a foundation, but that's national, right? We have great data across the entire country, but that doesn't give us a lot of great local coverage, right? Which is what we're really trying to achieve here with this kind of deployment. So that we supplement that foundation by using a very high-tech approach to trying to grab information. So we have a very sophisticated set of tools that we go off and deploy that go off and try to find information wherever we can find it. We'll look on broker websites, we'll look on social media sites, we're going to look on Craigslist, we're going to look anywhere we can find information, and we script those tools specifically for your community. So we're going to look for, what commercial listings are in Folsom, what are in Sacramento, whatever communities we are, we script all these tools up, and then once we actually script those up, we deploy them. And once those tools are deployed, and once they find information sources, we park ourselves there. Right? We make sure that anytime we find information from that source, we're going to collect it, we're going to maintain it. If we find listings coming on, we add those. If we find listings coming off, we take those off. And we just basically keep it up to date. And that tool, or set of tools that we have, literally we're now up to about 3,000 different sources of information and growing. Right? That tool chain is growing And the third thing that we do is we have this self-service portal that allows for direct access into our database. And that's important both for the community leaders and the brokers. Right? So the broker, what we offer is, again, we offer an incentive. We want to work with the local broker community. Right? We want to tell them, look, by working with us and providing us your listings directly with us, not only is there no charge for it, but we're going to take those listings, we're going to market them, we're going to promote them, we're going to use our own marketing dollars to give them visibility on the RealMassive.com national platform. And ultimately, we're going to try to drive traffic as a result, drive visibility, and hopefully drive leads directly back to the broker. And we can also provide analytics. Right? So if you want to see the performance of those listings, how much traffic is being generated, how many leads are being generated, we can actually do that as well in our self-service portal. So that's the pitch to the broker. Now, for the community leaders, if you have inventory that you manage, that you're trying to promote, you're trying to provide visibility for, you have two options here, which I mentioned in the first session. Option one is perhaps you only want to use, you only want to expose those properties on a local bid-by-bid level, right? You don't want to have it nationally exposed. You want to have any exposure across the country or even regionally. You just want to have it available to you for use on a bid basis, on a proposal basis. And in that model, just work directly with Jeff and company, go through the GIS-Prospector tool, upload the properties there, and they will only be there for that local Greater Sacramento rendering. If, however, you want to promote those listings and to promote those properties that you manage across the country, you then work with us directly. And I'll show you how to do that at the end here of the presentation. You come to us directly, we can load those properties, we'll make sure that it gets included in your feed here in Sacramento. And the reason you might want to do that is, for example, some of our other clients. You know, we have real estate investment trust companies, for example, that we license our data to. So if you have a property, for example, that maybe is for sale, maybe as part of our data feed to a real estate investment trust company, they might see that property appear on their radar screens and say, hey, there's a property here in Greater Sacramento that looks interesting, it fits the profile that I'm looking for from my acquisition perspective. I may want to contact that particular owner and try to find out if I can actually acquire that property. So again, there are various reasons why you might want to have national visibility and state level and regional visibility for those listings. So again, if you want to have that kind of visibility, just work through us directly. We'll get those properties loaded. We'll make sure they get visible, and you're going to see a lot of added benefits beyond that, of course, as well. Okay. So on the left, you see the three primary ways that we collect data. It's, again, direct data feeds on a nightly basis, self-service entry models, as well as these automated tools. It all collapses into this master database that we have aggregated. It's a very sophisticated database. We're removing duplicates. We're always trying to improve and enrich that data set. We add property information, for example, that may not appear on the listing database. We actually try to have a lot more property level information that we also add to that. There's a lot of things that we do to enrich the data, but at the end of the day, we're trying to do three things. We're trying to create breadth of coverage, we're trying to create depth and quality of coverage, and we're trying to do the hardest thing of all, which is kind of keep it up to date, keep it timely. That's a very hard thing to do. So those are the three things that we're really trying to do. And we do all this within about 2 weeks. I mean, when we actually deploy our solution, it actually takes less than 2 weeks to actually go from start to finish. And that's the first wave. And then, of course, as we get more and more sophisticated, the quality of the data set and all three of those metrics actually improves. I'm going to skip through this, but suffice to say, we have a sophisticated pipeline model that allows us to collect data, enrich it, standardize it, remove duplicates, identify gaps, figure out, if there are missing pictures, simple things like we do. So if there's a missing picture, for example, in a listing, rather than leave it empty, what we're trying to do first is try to revert to a Google Street View, right? Just so we can have something to actually have visibility to the listing. And then in that model, we have a separate team that actually is going to go off and contact the broker and say, hey, look, we have an image here, it's a Google Street View. We'd love to have an original image. Can we have that so we can actually use it and utilize that instead of what we put on here? So there's a lot of things that we do in this sort of pipeline process to try to, again, enrich the data. So here's how you can help, right? So if you are a broker and or a community leader, we want to have property owners in your community that aren't necessarily perhaps even using a broker, we want to have that kind of information. So you tell us where to look, right? We have a lot of things that we've done ourselves. We've curated a huge list ourselves. We actually go off and try to investigate and research all this work ourselves. But if you know of others, just let us know that, because that just helps make our process even better. And then once we actually have those sources, and those sources are always growing, we then go through this data collection methodology that I described earlier. We then take all that inventory, and then we make it very seamless to integrate back into the Prospector tool. But we don't stop there. I mean, the point here is this is an ongoing process, right? We don't stop when we first make the first delivery. I mean, our first delivery to Sacramento was about 2,200 listings, if I recall, something like that, which is a great start, but I think there's a lot more out there, right? So we're going to continue to work this process, and I'll give you a case study. We worked with Los Angeles County last year, which is the single largest county in the entire country. There's like 10 million plus people there. I think on day one of our delivery, within 2 weeks of first signing the contract, I think we delivered about 4,000 listings. I mean, that was a very quick turn from 0 to 4,000 listings, and we got that deployed very quickly. Within about 2 months, or 2 or 3 months, that count had doubled. We had actually got up to about 8,000. By the end of this past year, I think we're up over 10,000 listings. Right? So you can see that the progression, the more and more sophisticated we get, the better our tools get, the more relationships that we set up with the local broker community, the better that data set becomes. So that's what we're really trying to do and replicate here in every community that we work in. So that's what we hopefully can do here for the Greater Sacramento region as well. This is the deployment. I'm not going to go through this because Jeff will step through this in a minute, but he'll show you all the cool things that we can do in this combined solution. And I'll conclude on this. This is the email that you're going to want to keep either if you're a broker and or a community leader. Again, if you have sources of information, let us know. If you're a broker and you simply want to provide us information, or maybe you just want us to take your information off your website, we can do that too. Just let us know, right? So contact us at that email address. Tell us, the information you have. We can either add properties. We can tell you and instruct you how to actually add properties yourself. If you want to do it yourself in a self-service model. If you want to send us a spreadsheet, if you want to send us a brochure, it really doesn't matter. We have all sorts of ways that we can actually take information to try to save you time. So if you can, use that email address, contact us, say that you're part of the Sacramento community, and then you'd like to add your listing, or you'd like to learn about how to add properties yourself, or you're aware of a broker that perhaps has some information that we need to go out and find. And just let us know, and then we will continue to work in collaboration with you and your community, and hopefully make this a great success. And with that, that's it. I'll turn it back over to Jeff so we can go through the tool.
No, I was just going to say thank you, gentlemen. So live demo time.
All right.
Everybody's very attentive, by the way. I really appreciate it.
It's the lunch coma.
Right? So, while Jeff's setting this up, I think what's going to be pretty cool when you actually see the live demo, I think it'll bring it all together on why this tool is so amazing in terms of a public-facing tool, because it layers in all the commercial properties that we have with really amazingly robust data sets. So again, when he goes through this, you're going to see how not only are you looking at a commercial property listing, but as we start adding layers and data, you can see, is that property located in a spot in a community that maybe has a local business incentive? Or maybe that location is near a transit route, so if you're searching for something that's within a certain distance of those routes. So we can really add any type of GIS-based layers in there that are gonna help affect the decision-making process for our client or a site selection consultant. And then you can also look at really robust data sets. So again, he's gonna show you all this, but if you're in here and you wanna know what the demographics are within a nearby radius, if you wanna know about the labor pool, if you wanna know what consumers are spending in the area, which is actually something that's a really important deep dive piece of information for retail site selection. So not only is this for, we're excited about the opportunities for, Class A space and industrial space, but again, a lot of usefulness for retail And it really is also very, very beneficial down to the mom and pop if you're trying to figure out, you know, who your nearby maybe competitors are, or even opportunities for synergy. All of that stuff's gonna be in here, and it's a couple of clicks of a button, and you can actually then pull those reports out and use them. So, these are great data sets that are used nationally as well, even for business planning. So, with that, now that now that I covered the gap there, Steve, get up and running.
Perfect.
Thank you, Jen. All right.
Great. Thanks, Danielle. So here's, and I think one thing just to point out is, as Danielle mentioned, we just recently launched the tool, and it's still, you know, there's still things that we'll be adding to it. I wouldn't say we're not fixing anything, but we'll be adding to it, whether it be more data coming in from the sites and buildings from RealMassive, to the additional GIS layers or any other information that we incorporate here. So, and remind me what because I keep showing this URL. What was the URL we used?
At GreaterSacramentoSites.com.
Okay, I'll go to that just so I'm not confusing people.
Vanity URL.
Vanity URL, yeah, exactly. So I'll bring that. So when you go to GreaterSacramentoSites.com, one of the first things you should see is that we highlighted the area that Greater Sacramento covers. So that's this boundary that you're seeing here on the map. And then what we're doing is we're ingesting the properties from RealMassive, and you're seeing just a random selection of those listings here. You can see there's a total of 1926 buildings. Right now we're just looking at buildings that are coming in. But on the map, what we're doing is we're only looking at the current page set. So we don't want an overwhelmed, cluttered map here. We just have that page there. Now, the tool itself, we break it into a few different options here. So I'm going to just focus on this box over here because this controls a lot of the information. So we have our search. So we can search buildings, which is available buildings that are for sale or for lease. Vacant land. So we do separate that into its own search. Just there's different attributes there. You can search existing businesses, and then also the communities. And one thing that I'll say about the communities, you can search the communities just like you would a property, not just like a property, but you could say, I want to see communities that are this big, and we pull that information. But then what we also do is all the information that we show here that I'll be showing with the demographics and labor force, we're showing it by community. So I'm going to just focus first over here on the buildings. And you'll see on this first tab we have square feet, if it's for sale or for lease. Then we have these property types. Currently we have office, retail, warehouse, industrial, and commercial as the options. But you also have another whole set of filters over here. You can search by city, and that'll be any of the member communities that you'll see in here. You can search by county, and that'll be the counties that'll be here. So Sacramento, Sutter, Yolo, and Yuba. And then you can even draw your own area here. So this is where you can get as granular as you want. So if you wanted to come in here and just draw on the map the area that you want to find properties, you can do that. You can also search by property name, ceiling height, lease rate, and then one nice feature is this keyword search. Let's say a lot of the information coming from RealMassive might be in the description field. You would think that you would be able to search that, but with the keyword you can. It's actually searching across all the different fields in there, so when you're not sure and you have a keyword that might be useful, you can put that in and see what results you have. And finally, we have our assets over here, and we will be adding to this. And assets can be thought of as something either the property has or doesn't have this. So is it in an opportunity zone or is it not in an opportunity zone? Is it rail served or not rail served? One of the unique things we did with the opportunity zone is we have the opportunity zone GIS data, but the property data didn't have that assigned to it. So what we did is when we ingest those properties from RealMassive, what we've done is we've done an intersect where we said, okay, is this property in opportunity zone? Okay, it is. Now it's something that can be searched. So the nice thing here is if I run this opportunity zone search, it's going to bring back all the listings from that are within the opportunity zone. And again, that's as accurate as the property location, as well as we do get the opportunity zone boundaries directly from the Department of Treasury, the one that actually through the CDFI fund that provides that, so it should be accurate. But when we do that selection, we've turned on the opportunity zone so you can actually see it. And then down below here, we can see all our listings, and you can see that there's 9 results. So again, this is just one example. And the idea here is as we get our hands on additional data, we would be able to do that with other attributes. Depending, is it an enterprise zone, is it rail served, or any of those different things, you'd be able to do the same exact type of search. So So now what does it mean when I have my results down here? Actually, I'm going to back up out of this one because I want to go to one with some property photos in there first. So let's just redo a search. And again, this is part of the enrichment process with these photos coming in. You should see that much more of this is being populated in here. So we'll go back. We're just going to grab this listing right here. And the first thing we'll see here is it's going to load up the property report, which is fairly typical of what you would see for a listing. It's going to have the details, some description, the contact information. But then if we go back up top, this is where we bring in the tools that GIS Planning provides. So in addition to the property report, which is either coming from you entering the property in or from RealMassive, we're providing labor force, demographics, consumer spending, wage data, business data, talent pool, and housing. So these are all the reports that are being loaded in the background. So if I go ahead and click on labor force, and one of the things we did is we preload these in the background at just a default 10-mile radius. However, that can be changed to be whatever you want. And actually, let me just turn off the opportunity zones real quick there. So if I'm in the labor force report, the information being shown here is going to show you the type of businesses by size and also by industry class. So, how many businesses are there in agriculture, forestry, and fishing? Well, there's 61. Well, then I can also look on the other side where it's going to tell me the number of employees. So I can say, well, there's 61 businesses there. They're employing 613 actual positions. And you can see this is very detailed. It actually goes by our provider, which for this data set is Applied Geographic Solutions. They have their own categories assigned here that they put together. But then if you also want to go by NAICS codes, we do the same type of aggregation here and looking at the actual NAICS code designations. Now, if I go back up here, another option is you can go from anywhere from 1 mile to 60 mile, 1 minute to 60-minute drive time. So if I want to change this, and for me, maybe it's a 20-minute drive time is what's important to me, I can run that. What that'll do is it's going to show us visually on the map what is considered to be that 20-minute drive time. And then if I look down here, the data is going to all be updated to reflect that. One unique thing about all our features here is we are open with this. This isn't data where you have to have a license and to log in and do this. So any end user can do this. And we make it something that you can either print out, maybe export to Excel, PDF. You can even share this. Right here would be the direct link. So if you generate a really nice report and you want to send that to someone, you can either grab the direct link here, you can send it in our little email form here, you can even post it over to your social media. So again, the idea here is you want people coming back and looking at this information. The other reports, so I should have said this, the labor force, demographics, and consumer expenditures, they're provided by Applied Geographic Solutions. They're a premium data vendor. It's not just census data. You should see it differ slightly from census data, otherwise they're not doing their job because their job is to keep it as current as possible. We update that data twice a year. We just updated it about 2 weeks ago, and then we update it in May. And when we update it in May, that's when we shipped everything from 2018 to 2019. And then also on the demographic and consumer reports, we include 5-year projections. So now that we're looking at the demographic report, we're looking at things like population, age distribution, household household income distribution, all that information in here. And that, again, that has the 5-year projection. And then consumer expenditures. This is the one I think is really great because what this will show, especially if you're a business looking to come into the area, is what the consumers are spending in an industry. And it's detailed. So if I go into apparel, I can see it's broken down into types of apparel. Same thing with entertainment, total education, gifts. So it's, I won't go through the whole list here. Now, another nice thing about this tool is if I look up here, so this, what is this telling me? This is telling me, okay, if I'm a men's apparel store, that within that 10-mile radius, men's apparel, the average is $2,000 per year per household. And this, I always have trouble converting this, but it's $971 million aggregate-wise in household men's apparel total. So this doesn't necessarily tell me within that 10-mile radius where there might be a concentration, so if I'm looking to locate. So if I click on this, what that'll do is it's going to load up a heat map. So the heat map is taking that same data, and then it's depending on what level of zoom you enter on the map. Right now we're looking at this at the zip code level, but you'll notice, which it tells you right here. So you might see a pocket over here that has a concentration. And so if I zoom in over here, we actually take the data down to the block group level. So we get really detailed with that information. So if you're looking to make a selection, it is good to see the overall value, but then if you want to be maybe located near where there's a stronger influence, you could do that. And this is true for any of those first three reports. So the labor force, the consumer spending, and the demographics, you can run that same type of heat map. There's about 850 different variables that you can do those heat maps from and pull up this information. Now this information, even the mapping portion, if you wanted to share this, you would simply click export. You can generate a link, send an email, generate a PDF, and it'll take someone right back to that analysis that you've done in here. And then this data, it's directly tied to that, or to the demographic data. So as we make updates to our sets of data, everything's updated on the fly. The wage data, this is one of our more static sets of data. It comes from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's based on the NSA level. So you won't necessarily see this changing per property because I believe everything's probably, I don't know, do you cover more than one MSA in Greater Sacramento? Okay, so this will probably...
Our 6-county region is a little bit bigger than the MSA, so it doesn't correlate exactly.
There might be, it might pull up something from another one on the edges.
Right.
But what this does show is it's going to show you the hourly and annual income levels for all these different segments. So if I go into food preparation, and it's very detailed. You go through it, find the one that you're looking for. So this lets an employer know what they would be looking to pay in the area. This is updated annually as soon as the Bureau of Labor Statistics has it available. Our next this is probably our most premium set of data is the existing business data. This comes from Infographic USA. It's updated quarterly. They provide the business location, the NAICS category, as well as the estimated revenue and number of employees for every business. So if I look down here, we're just looking at a 10-mile radius by default, but I can turn that up a little bit. We'll go to 5 miles, and you can do this up to 60 miles. The map gets really busy at that point. But the data down below is what's interesting, is we aggregate the number of businesses, and right now we're looking at the 2-digit NAICS. We can drill down into that, look at it at the 4-digit NAICS, and then we can go down to even the specific businesses. So if I go to full-service restaurants, I can see all these different restaurants here, their estimated sales, and their estimated number of employees. Now, if I go back up to the map, you can see that looks a little busy. But one of the nice things you can do here is you can create a cluster. So if I come in here and say create cluster, I want to know within 60 miles where there's larger employers. Actually, we'll just keep it at our larger employers, so 500 employees plus. You could even go down into the actual specific business categories here. So if you were looking at so we'll just go ahead and click generate. And so what that's going to do is it's going to produce our largest employers here within 60 miles. So those will pull up on the list, and you can see all that data here, and you can see where you stand out. And again, just like all other reports, you can share these out and however you need to use that data. Talent pool, that comes from National Centers of Education Statistics. We're reporting back number of degrees awarded by program and by university. So if you want to go recruit for a certain area or expertise, you can come in here. You can select, so I'm down here in business management. I can see, okay, there's quite a few associates and bachelor's degrees. Okay, where are those coming from? Okay, California State University, Sacramento had almost 1,000 bachelor's degree. If you're not sure where the location is, you just simply click on it. And again, we'll label that up here on the map so it's all put together. And then finally, to wrap up those reports is our housing report. And depending on how you feel about Zillow, that's where the source of this data is. It is a real-time feed. It is an API directly, so as soon as you click on that, it's running it over to Zillow and it's populating this back. But what's nice here is they're returning some information baselined against the nation, so you can see how it measures up. It also has some information about like condo versus home, renters versus owners, all that information. And it's based on the community or the zip code. So depending on the location, it'll first try and find a matching city, and if it does, it'll use that. If not, it'll use the zip code. So a couple things I wanted to show in here that's just really useful for you. So let's say you came into a location and you like what you see and you want to share that. One of the nice things you can do is you can come in here and you can save the individual reports. So maybe I like this property report, I'll save that. And I like the demographic report. and maybe I like the business report. The nice thing about saving these reports, there's one added additional bonus here, is that you can come in and you can build a combined report. So right here I could generate a PDF that's going to merge all these together into one single report. You can name it whatever you want, and we run that report. And then this is something you have tangible from the system. So especially for the brokers or whatever, having your listings in there is great. You can come in here, you can run this report. This is something you could print off, you could hand out to a prospect. And again, this could very well be up to 20, 30 pages depending on how many reports you're adding into it. Any questions on any of the data, the demographic information, the business data that might have come to mind just showing that? Thanks. Yeah.
Could you repeat one more time where the talent pool is?
Yeah. So the talent pool comes from the National Centers of Education Statistics, which is a division of the Department of Education.
Is there information from the tax assessor's office?
Not currently. That's a great question. We fully support adding additional data sets, whether it be GIS data, and usually with the tax data that would get tied into a parcel layer, which is something we can do. So, absolutely. One thing I did want to show here as far as back in the search, I'm not going to really cover the business search because the business search is very similar to that radius search I did. It's the same data set. You can just search by actual business names and things like that. But with the communities, and this is what's really nice for each individual community areas, they can come in here, whether you're searching for the community or just want to report on it. One additional report that comes with the communities is our community infographic. And this is an aggregate of different sources of data of ours. A lot of it comes from Applied Geographic Solutions, some of it's our own GIS analysis. But for each community in here, we have these dynamic reports that we put together, infographics. And we break it into like the people section, and it is dynamic in that you can scroll through the years here. Education attainment, and one of the pieces that we did as a company here is we went in and we ran the analysis to see the number of universities in the community and within a 50-mile radius. Then we have labor force, and this is really showing like the top job occupations in the area, and then blue collar versus white collar. And then we have business and jobs. This shows the top employers and industries. And then we have our income and spending, which has a good aggregate value of the community. And then we have our housing information, transportation. It kind of goes on and on. You can see that there. The other nice thing is you can do this for each community, for the county, but you can even do this for the entire region. So if you wanted to see where Greater Sacramento ranks in here, you could load that in here, and that infographic will load up for them as well, or for the region. So you can see all that down in there. So you can see that total values there. So that's kind of a good run through. The only other piece I would say that is great for you to know here that I think we'll be adding more to hopefully is the GIS layer capabilities of the site. So over here under layers, we provide a lot of national based layers and we keep them up to date. We have things like broadband. If you go into broadband, you can see, we break it out into like cable, DSL, fiber. By the way, we're getting ready to update that. Hopefully the next few weeks, that'll be updated to 2018. Then we also have things like energy. This breaks it down. Some of these, and this is a good question. We might want to get rid of coal mines on here. I don't know if there's any coal mines nearby. But we have things like power plants versus renewable versus non-renewable. But a lot of these data layers are also smart. Like I can click on this, I can see, okay, what is this resource here? It's a hydroelectric. What is its capacity? And so we have some information in there. And then just another, probably the two of the more important ones are the incentive zones. So we have federal opportunity zones, new employment tax credit, new market tax credit, and U.S. hub zones. I believe these two in the middle are for the state, and they're through. They were provided. I'd have to look up where the sources for you, but they're in there. And then we also have environmental. We have our flood zones and our wetlands. I mentioned like I need to look that up. I do highly recommend even the end users using this. The help section here is great. We do call out all our data sources, so if I come in here and I want to know more about the map layers, we expose where we get that. So here we go, GIS Planning map layer sources. We call them out here. There's links back to them. Same thing with the reports. If you wanted to go back and see where we are getting that data from, you can get that right in here. So yeah, we try and be as open with this as possible. Danielle, is there anything you wanted me to cover, or any other questions?
I might have missed this, but is there contact information for given geographies on the economic development contacts or the council members or city or council that could be contacted to help tap into resources?
Absolutely. So there's a couple different ways, and I don't know if there's one thing which I don't know if it's directly related to what you're saying here, but one thing we can do is we can, if someone's in this tool and they happen to go to a property in Folsom or they're looking at Folsom, we can brand on that. Each community can have whoever's the assigned community or contact. So we can do that. Now, if it's the other way, I don't know if your question was also like, was it providing information for the site? Like, were you, like if you had information that you wanted to add to the site, or was it more the front end side trying to show the person?
More the front end, and even just doing our own research. Like I know that there was someone who was interested in doing a project in what is it, not Folsom, up towards Roseville, and there was it's a very small economic development department there, but it's very active in that process. And so it took like a lot of hands-on coordination to make that happen because it wasn't just readily accessible.
Oh yeah, we could definitely add that.
Well, and also good transition and great question. So several answers. Greater Sacramento. That's what we're here for, and we do represent the 6-county region. The member communities are engaged with us. So if you are looking for anything like that, contact us, and we will get you to the right local community and engage with them right away. Absolutely. So we can help with that. It also makes me think that it might also be interesting to see about adding different districts and information on contacts with people within communities. So if you're looking at a property, maybe you can also see, who the councilman is for that area. That might be helpful as well, because then you go, great, who do I need to call and talk to about this property and see who's going to be, voting on it and what's going on. So I think that's huge.
Who do I ask Greater Sacramento to reach out for and connect me?
Right. So yeah, so it's a great idea and awesome feedback. And I would say, maybe now's kind of a good time. Yeah, please continue to ask questions if you have them. But I do want to thank you all so much for coming and listening to this. Do you think it's interesting? Do you like it? Cool stuff. Well, again, we're still working on building out the tool, but as we add in more layers, so we're looking for. I just wanted to circle back with our asks. If you're working in or working with folks in the commercial real estate industry, we're going to be sending out information. We really want to connect them with RealMassive so we can get data uploaded in the system. So the more properties we have, the better we can be at responding to opportunities. If you're in a community or anyone else, please take a look at this. Utilize it as a tool. Give us feedback on layers and information that you think would be helpful. So please do that. And then I would say our champions. So one of the reasons we like to harass all of our champions, we have been posting on social media about this as well. So please take a look at, make sure that you maybe look at our handle and then just retweet it, push it out there, and help spread the word in the community. And we also do have a friend here today from the Business Journal, so hopefully we can help spread the word on that as well, and they find it a good tool. So yeah, with that, please continue to ask questions, but I just wanted to close with that and thank both of our speakers as well for being here and for being great partners and helping us bring this to the region.
Any other thing?
So when there's a lead for a certain property, how can you run me through the lead generation process? Because I think you said it went to like Greater Sacramento, so I guess I'm wondering, how does like the specific broker that's listing the property, how would they be alerted to the fact that someone from out of the market is looking at the property?
So there's two different ways. So on the tool itself, we do list the contacts so that they might reach out to them. As far as the broker being aware of who's looking at that, so there is a tool. So the site itself, by design, is kind of meant where you don't have to sign up for a user account. So there is a limit to knowing who is looking at a specific site. That said, one of the tools we have is, it's called Lead Gen ID. We can, as long as the site is being looked at from a public IP address, like at work, we can at least figure out what company it is, what property they're looking at, what types of reports they're running. The only issue there is that information really goes to Greater Sacramento, so it would almost have to be that broker maybe checking in, or if Greater Sacramento might be willing to pull those reports and let the user know. So we do provide some tools for that.
So, Jeff, a lot of it hasn't changed in the past 5 years, which is really good, which means it works well, because you haven't needed to change it. So, are we going to have access to the back office from each of us our jurisdictions, so we can do the administration and work with our brokers? Because in the past, we had a unique code where the broker can just log in and upload their properties, or they give us the information and we would upload it, and then make it time sensitive so they didn't get back on within so many days that we would make it go dark.
So there's a couple different options, and I would say there's, it's up to you, but the easier way, because RealMassive is involved in this now, is if the broker is already working with them, they'll create an automatic upload. So there's really no having to hand enter. So I think the way you did it in the past was a little bit, it's almost a little antiquated now in the process where there was hand data entry. If they work with RealMassive, that data will be automatically linked and they can work with them to where you don't even have to do that. If you choose, for whatever reason, and I think we talked about this a little bit earlier, some municipalities and communities maybe have public property that you're auctioning off or putting out to bid, or if for whatever reason there's a piece of property that you really, really want to control that listing, we are giving our partner communities the ability to do that on the administrative side. I'll just be honest, in the past, what I've seen with these is it's very, very hard, understandably, to get brokers to upload individual sites. So that's why, this partnership is so fantastic, because if we can take that work out of the equation to where it's just another place where their properties are listed and promoted with very, very little work on their part, then we think that that's kind of a sweet spot, so.
I'll add one more thing, which is also a possibility that we have some communities do this. Sometimes, even though we work directly with the brokers actually are perfectly happy having the local community leaders be as an admin to that listing as well. So what we can do on our side is, as long as we get that permission granted, we actually would just add you basically as an owner to the listing, right? So if you actually want to make additional changes or additions or whatever it is, you actually have that capability as well. So we actually have various ways we can actually manage it on our side.
So on our recruiting retail, one of the valuable data points is new residential construction or tentative maps and that sort of thing. So we maintain a GIS tool for that. I would love to be able to put that layer essentially integrated into this. Is that possible? It's on an ArcGIS
It's
format
possible
right
on our
now.
end, but it's.
I love it.
Yeah.
I think that, it's a great point. That's another thing that I think, maybe you can kind of spearhead that regionally. That's a great question that we get, when companies are looking at the region, they go, well, cool, this is what's going on with your housing today. Telling the story of what has been entitled or is under development is also helpful, because they get a sense of not just, workforce housing now, but workforce housing in, 2, 3, 5 years, hopefully. So we'd love to add that layer.
And we could, what I'm envisioning is, especially if it's kind of like certain, maybe each community has its, because we have folders for our layers, so maybe if you are a community that's actively giving us some data, it could go in a folder, just to kind of keep it organized, is the only thing. Oh, and then I'll get you.
So, Mike, when you were showing your data feeds,
Yes.
I see that you get them directly from Realogy and Berkshire, and they're predominantly residential companies. So in a different context than what we were just talking about, do they send you exclusively the commercial, or are they sending you the residential?
Yeah, they do. In fact, we exclude all residential.
Okay.
We're strictly commercial. And the reason they're important for us is those two in particular, the data feeds, is because there is actually a lot of multifamily that they capture, and that sometimes gets included in the commercial data set. And they actually also have fairly strong rural coverage oftentimes. So
in the multifamily, what is the fewest number of units that you want, including that kind of data?
we don't restrict it. As long as it's classified as multifamily, we're going to capture it. Now, you can do searches to exclude. I
what they call fair display guidelines, which means that those brokers would get listed always as a listing broker. Is that the case for your properties, that every listing broker is the original one?
Correct.
Because I saw there was some third party also sources for you.
Yes.
So what happens when you're getting the information on a listing?
The primary, we treat it the same way. So we
Okay.
treat it as the primary, is basically the primary listing broker. Now, oftentimes, if there are multiple listing brokers, sometimes it's a little larger,
Right.
you know, we'll actually list both of them.
Thank you.
And one thing to add to what you were saying, we can also, like, whatever's coming in from RealMassive to us, we can further filter too. So we tend to, I think you probably give us more than what we use, and we can filter more from that.
I know you said that you don't want there to be any sort of subscription, or you want as much access as possible. I'm wondering though, if you search and you find a couple properties that you're interested in that are for lease or for sale or whatever, is there a way in which to provide an email or something so that you get notifications about maybe when it's sold or leased, so you can stay as up to date as possible on it?
We've discussed that, and I think that is the next step, because one thing, we haven't quite done that, but one of the things is we don't want it to ever require a login. Right. But having the option, like if you want to be notified, we are in the process of looking at it, yeah.
Gotcha. And one other question is there a way in which to search for listings based on like the date that they've been uploaded, so you can see kind of like the most recent iteration of uploads?
Actually, I can add that, yeah, so we actually have, I just don't have, where you saw those assets, we can add a flag for new and recently updated. Yeah. And then even but this isn't on the front side, in the admin side, they have the ability to search by whatever date range, which is interesting, maybe that's something we add. And I believe it's a sort option too, that you can
Yeah,
sort
just wrote that down, that's interesting too. Yeah, good point. Cool.
So I just got one question. You know, in this business, follow-up is kind of like key.
Mm-hmm.
So when we input these properties or commercial into the system, how can we follow up with that potential lead that you've noticed been monitoring our property from a broker standpoint?
So, I mean, that's a good question, I think, because you...
Great point. So, ideally in a perfect world, if they're looking at your listing, then they're contacting you about it. So that's the prime idea. One of the other things that we also do, we'll receive, sometimes through our state agency, through GoBiz, or directly, we'll receive inquiries from clients. So it's either directly from a company, maybe from a site selector, and the name or who that company is confidential. So there's a lot of different ways we get opportunities, and we'll respond to their requests and their data sets. So if they give us parameters on what they're looking for in terms of properties, we'll respond with properties that meet those qualifications. If and when it gets to the point where they say, hey, we're really interested in these 2 or 3 properties, we'll absolutely make that connection at that time, but generally they'll do it on their own as well. So that's the idea, that getting this information out there more and more is going to trigger the contact on the private side, because we really want that to be between the listing agents and the interested parties. We're there to provide the information and provide the best response from the community on why they should be in this region.
On the business icon, is there a way to locate like barbershops? I own a couple barbershops, and if I wanted to acquire someone's shop, is that?
There is, so under the business search, this is where, so you could obviously type in the name. Like if you typed in barber, but then that would have to be in the name of the barbershop. The other thing you would have to do is you go under more filters here, and you would drill down into the profession. So it would probably be under healthcare and social. So you'd have to kind of go through there. The other thing you can do, if you know the NAICS codes, and sometimes it's easier to do this, is you could type in NAICS code for barbershops, like just on a Google search. You can actually drop that NAICS code right in here, and that would pull.
I was more interested in the heat map, like seeing who has the potential, like what market is hot, what area.
For that one, you would map out like where people are spending money on personal care, and then you could also then map the businesses together.
Okay.
So you could put, so there are some of these tools that you could do in here together. So let's go to the heat maps. If we go to, let's go to consumer expenditures and personal care. Oh, there it is. Personal care, I just had it, sorry. Okay, Let me get the shoes. Now this is where, well, hair care. So here's hair care. Now that will show you where, you know, as we zoom in and out, you'll see some hot spots here.
Okay.
Then what you could do on top of this map that you already see here is you could go in and then possibly show some businesses. Let's see if I can find. This is where I would actually recommend, sometimes going through here, oh, here's personal care, can be a little more tedious, but personal care, because it gets, let's roll down, hair, nail. Get nervous when you do these live actual examples here. The one thing I will say about when you get into those designations where you're searching by NAICS code variations, I get a little iffy. The little trick for you that I would recommend is I would find an existing business. I'm going to just type in barber here.
7 East 12th Street.
What's nice is when we pull these up, each business will show the NAICS code. So a lot of times what I do to find a NAICS code is I'll find a business that I know is in there, and then I'll go in there and I'll get that NAICS code and I'll drop in and do that search there. My connection isn't the best, so.
That's a thank you. That's
Okay, well, so here's an example. So here's all the barber shops. And so I can see they're all pretty much using this NAICS code here. And the only reason I'm not just using the word barber is that's just where barber was in the name. So now if I put in the NAICS code here and run that search, this will actually give me all the barber shops. So that's kind of a workaround. Because sometimes going through that, the NAICS codes get some kind of are related but separate. So here's an example. So there's 245 barber shops. We have our heat map on as well, and we can kind of see where there's some concentrations.
awesome. Also, will you be including EISDs or enhanced infrastructure financial districts?
We could, yeah.
Yeah, we have a layer we can send you for West Sacramento for the EISD.
Perfect. Oh, one thing I just because we got on this kind of side talk, I should have pointed out. So I show that you could do these reports around an existing property for sale or for lease. You can do it for a community. But one of the things that you can do in here is you can define any area you want. So using this polygon tool, you can actually, you can define any area that you want. And I can show businesses or whatever data I want based on any area that I define here. So it really gives you the power to run these reports anywhere in Greater Sacramento at any moment.
And the last one too that's cool is the pin drop. That's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
you can zoom in on the map anywhere. You can drop a pin, just like with Uber, right? And then you can run any of those reports from any radius you want from that location. I personally really like that if I'm looking at different areas in the community, and then you can kind of pull that. It doesn't have to be tied to a listed property in that sort of instance.
Perfect. Did I run out of time?
You guys are awesome.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you all so very much. We're going to send you a little follow-up note with a link to the site for some information and a little survey about this and future events. Thank you so much. Yes. Suzette, if you need